First person is one of my friends I met in photo club. He is from Vietnam.
For me, I have a problem in writing Chinese because in Vietnam we use the Latin alphabet, not Hanzi. And uh, in Taiwan, they use a lot of internet slang in their daily life. At the first time when I hear this internet slang, I don't even know what does it mean. For example, 你很累, yeah. And during class, there are so many proper nouns that I have never learned it before. When I watch the news on TV, because they speak so quickly, so I couldn't understand all of things. And now, besides practice writing Chinese every day, I also try to read Chinese news, and if I have problem, I can ask my classmates to explain what does this mean. I think with this method, my Chinese will improve day by day.
Next person is an exchange student from Japan, and she learned Chinese since college.
When I study Chinese, the most difficult is pronunciation. Japanese doesn't have four tones, so I often want to speak s and sh, even na. And to pronounce little phrases what is also really difficult for me, like li and ri. For overcoming my difficulty of pronunciation, I try to listen more and speak more Chinese. After coming to Taiwan, I try to put myself in situations that I have to speak Chinese. For example, going out with local students, taking only Chinese class, and so on. It's the best way to make more chance to use Chinese for studying Chinese.
Final part is two guys sharing their experience about learning Chinese.
Hey, I'm Wojtek, I come from Poland, and I've been studying Chinese for 5 years.
I'm Chris, I come from Canada, and I've been studying Chinese for between 1 and 2 years.
In Poland, I major in sinology, which is basically learning Chinese, so my experience in learning Chinese might be a little different than most people, but yeah.
Yeah, in Canada I major in biology, and I take Chinese classes on the side, like for interest. So I think, we would have very different experiences for this.
The most difficult thing at the very beginning, I think, characters, obviously. So many strokes, and I didn't know what their meaning was. And I had no idea how to remember them. So I was writing for hundreds of times, and then I would go to prepare my dinner, and then I would go back and I would find out that I forgot how to write
Yeah.
So basically, it was very, very difficult.
Characters I found okay. Like, I found if I wrote them out maybe 10 to 20 times each, then I would remember them for 2 to 3 months, and then class would end, we'd write the exam, and then it would all leave my head. So sort of useful. I think until when I met Wojtek, he was telling me, he was showing me how to learn them more so, and once he taught me some of the meanings of the different parts of the characters that you frequently see. Once he'd said that to me, then I found that learning new characters was quite a bit easier, because then you could recognize the parts and see, rather than seeing sort of 20 strokes, you might see 3 components or something like that.
Radicals.
Yeah, or like a radical and then the other parts. So that became much easier. But still very it's not very easy.
Yeah, the other problem was the pronunciation for sure, and the biggest problem, 声调.
Yeah.
The Chinese tones. Yeah, because we don't have them in our languages, so it was obviously very difficult to comprehend it.
Yeah.
And yeah, in terms of pronunciations, one of their problems is some sounds in Chinese like xu, qu, or
Yeah, English lacks a lot of those sounds. Again, I found learning them was okay. It was fine, but that if I'm speaking and if I'm trying to speak quickly, then I frequently will use the wrong one. So like instead of saying chu chu, I might say chu chu or chu chu or something like that, which is it's very frustrating. Yeah, that's something that happens. But interestingly, I have a hard time recognizing when I've done that. So it takes someone else like Wojtek, he would say, "Hey Chris, you said that wrong," for me to realize that I've done it. So yeah, it's a tough problem. Yeah.
And one of the reasons why listening is the hardest to practice is because native speakers of Chinese language they don't pay attention to pronouncing their language in the most standard, perfect way. Their tones are not so
Clear.
yeah, so clear. Yeah. Yeah, as we were talking before, let's use the example of 早安, good morning. Like now we don't have any problems with this, but I imagine that people that just start learning Chinese, when they learn this new word 早安, they when they listen, they look for this perfect pronunciation, perfect third tone 早 and perfect first tone 安, very high, very long, and native speakers don't say it like this. They would just say 早安, and some people, and especially in a longer sentence, might not understand it. Yeah, so that's also a problem. The problem is that 标准的 standard Chinese doesn't actually exist in real life. So
yeah. As I imagine it's similar with English. Like, I think if I was speaking to an English friend, then it may be very difficult to understand what we're saying because we probably speak very quickly and we don't enunciate, we don't pronounce carefully the beginning, middle, and end of each word, which can make it quite difficult to understand.
although some people say that it's easier than the grammar of European languages, Indo-European languages, but because it's totally different, it can be harder actually at the very beginning of learning. Because in Indo-European languages there are notions of tenses, and in Chinese there is no such thing. So yeah, we often tend to put la everywhere as to imply present, past simple,
tense, yeah.
past tense, yeah, or hui to imply
The future.
future, yeah.
Yeah.
And which is not always correct.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overcoming difficulties when learning Chinese. First, learning characters. As we already agreed, the ultimate and the best way happened to be mastering radicals. And then when I did this, I found out that memorizing Chinese characters was very, very easy. Well, maybe not super easy, but still easy and possible without writing they down. So now when I look at them, even if it's like 30 strokes, I see the components of it, and I know, I remember.
Yeah, and I'm just starting learning radicals, and already it's making a big difference in learning some of the characters. Yeah, so I can see what Wojtek's saying, but from a different perspective, much further back.
In pronunciation, and what I did was basically speaking, very loudly, very often, and till my throat was very, very sore. And yeah, and it helps because as I found out through my own research, when we're very young, our larynx develops until we are 3 years old, around 3 years old, and then it becomes stiff. So to make it more flexible, I started talking very loudly, and even I trained it like a muscle, and the results were really good, and that's also that's why also people that frequently sing, they're better at learning new languages, learning new sounds, and also producing them because their larynx is flexible. So that was my way. And
the ways that I review, I guess one way for learning new characters and recognizing them is by reviewing flashcards. And I have an application on my phone which has thousands of flashcards, and so I do that anywhere, anytime. And then the second way I study by myself is by watching movies or TV shows. I try to find them with that are in Chinese. I try to find them with Chinese subtitles also, and not English subtitles, because if there are English subtitles, I can't help myself. I just read the English and I don't learn anything. And I think this is helping, but I think it will take a long time.
谢谢。
谢谢。